and write it out. Try and describe it to the best of your ability. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy DG from DG Mindset. It's time to answer all of your questions. If this is your first time, make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you like the video. And if what I talk about resonates with you, if there's a question that I answer and you feel like, man, this is me, share this with somebody. Let's go ahead and jump into it right now. So the first question comes from Growth Minded, and they asked me, how do you heal from a trauma caused by someone else? Let's understand the nature of trauma from a universal perspective. Let's zoom out a little bit. Anytime you deal with trauma, it's not the actual situation, no matter how traumatic that event may be. It's the deeper energy, it's the deeper thing that it's trying to resolve within your soul. So let's just say I've dealt with abuse growing up as a child. That will strike in an energy within me, but maybe it's inadequacy, maybe it's self-worth. Maybe there's a part of me that I don't feel as though I'm good enough because of that trauma. What the ego will do is get caught up in the actual situation instead of using the situation to see what the energy was below. And the reason why that energy is below it is because on a soul level, within this incarnation, there was something that your soul wanted to work through, and this particular situation was the thing to bring it up out of you. So this goes for trauma, this goes for disagreements, this goes for anything that you ever deal with in life. Understanding that it is just you in your own universe, and while this situation may have happened, that was just an individual experience, and it's not about this experience, it's about what's below that. So using each experience to better understand yourself, but you can't do that until you have an awareness of what the energy meaning, what the emotion is that's being caused from it. So to answer your question, Growth Minded, ask yourself, number one, how does this trauma make me feel? And write it out. Try and describe it to the best of your ability. Number two, how can I choose to view this in a different way so that energy that I'm experiencing it, I feel the other end of that. So if I feel sad, if that's the energy that I feel, the emotion, what perspective would I have to have in order for me to feel happy? Not in the sense that I'm glad that this happened, but I've transmuted the energy of that situation by shifting my perspective, because we know that our perspective is what determines how we experience something, and what we experience is what we call reality. So you have that power to shift the energy of a situation just by shifting your perspective. Hope this helps. Next question, let's see here. This comes from Ramona the Man. How can I manage the feeling that I often feel like a victim in my daily life? Affirmations are really powerful, huge. Game changer. If you can affirm yourself that you're not the victim, but there's something that actually comes before that. Heighten your level of awareness to see where and when this state of victim consciousness began. Have you always felt this your whole life? And start to narrow and kind of move in and shine your flashlight of awareness on specified or maybe acute situations that's happened in your life, so you can see where this energy first manifested itself within your life. By you finding that and getting to the cause, now you've essentially gotten to the root of this weed that's in your life. And we know that once we get to the root of something, we can pull up the whole weed. But we can't pull up the weed until we know where the root is. So by asking this conversation or asking this question, this will allow you to get closer to where this energy actually began to show itself in your life. I don't know you personally, but I'm here to tell you, you're not a victim. You have everything inside of you. You have every ability to see yourself as a courageous, infinite being. You have it. You've been blessed with every single tool to manipulate and create the reality the way you desire. But sometimes we don't get taught this, and a lot of times we forget because we're not taught this. So I hope that this question that I've answered has helped you to see that the power has and always will lie in your perspective and in your awareness of you figuring out you. Someone asked me the other day, what's my favorite book? My favorite book is the book of me. Understanding me helps me to better understand the world, and the same goes for you. So use this situation, use this victim mindset to see what parts of you need to work on. A lot of times we take on the energy of either our parents, those who are most influential, our society, our culture, our neighborhood. Whatever energy has the most impact in our lives, we'll take on that energy. So a lot of times we assume a victim state of consciousness because that's what we were taught or what was put on us by our parents. I'm here to tell you, you're not a victim. You're a victor. Carry that energy. So every time you walk through a doorway today, tell yourself, I'm a victor, not a victim. And every time you walk through a doorway, you say that, and I can guarantee you within the next 3 weeks, you'll see your life change. Thanks for asking the question. I have anxiety and desperately need a person to open up to. but I have no friends. I'm alone. How do I manage? Great question. You're never really alone. Let me say that. Sometimes when we're alone, that's when we'll actually find ourselves. We have so many devices, so many distractions that keep us from wanting to find ourselves, but the only way to find yourself is to be alone. I can speak firsthand example in my own life. When I really started to figure out who I was, it was because I was spending so much time by myself, alone, contemplating, asking questions. Why do I feel this way? How did I get to feel this way? And I would always make sure I had a piece of paper and a pen, because now I can take my thoughts, I can take my emotions and put them out, and now I can clearly see them. We have so much stuff that's wrapped up in so many layers below our surface that a lot of times we're not aware of it. But by you taking time to be alone and bringing awareness to the things that are coming up in your life through journaling, through writing it down, through talking out loud and recording yourself, now the energy of that situation that pulls you down doesn't have the power that it normally would. So a lot of times we don't realize that the blessing and the curse come wrapped up together. They're just two different ends of the spectrum. And because they're two different ends, they're only varying by different degrees of vibration, which is us shifting our perspective. So if you can shift your perspective, and instead of looking at being alone as something that's negative and say, you know what, I have time to figure out who I am. I'm going to find out who I am through me spending more time alone and asking myself these questions of how did I get to be the way I am? Why do I think the way I do? Who had the most influence in my life with my perspective? Growing up, who was I looking to make proud? Mom or dad? Who was I more upset when I disappointed them? Mom or dad? By you realizing this and asking yourself these questions, you're just going to heighten your level of awareness. And when you heighten your awareness, you'll heighten your state of consciousness. And now we will become more aware of not only your outer world, but most importantly, your inner world. Hope this helped you. How to control yourself in a relationship on hard days where you are learning to detach. I get this question a lot when it comes to relationships. How do I detach? Not that we're not supposed to love. You're absolutely supposed to care for people. You're absolutely supposed to be in community. This is our inherent nature as human beings. We are communal animals. But when we develop attachment, meaning the ego needs someone or needs something for it to be enough, this is when we go down the slippery slope of the ego. The key is for you to recognize that I don't necessarily need this person for me to be enough or to be whole or for me to believe in me or to have self-confidence. I have to have that first, and then I will have a healthier relationship with them instead of me projecting my inadequacies onto them. So this is where, like, when you're in a relationship and you're looking to detach, detachment will come as a byproduct of you understanding and figuring out you and loving yourself whole. That's how we detach. You can't consciously go in to say something, I'm going to detach. You know what? Screw them. No, it's more about you better understanding yourself. And when you start to get closer back to the self, the true you, the infinite you, now you won't be dependent or codependent on their energy supply. So the analogy I'll give you is eating. If I feed myself and I know how to cook, now I'm not depending on you to feed me. Because if I depend on you to feed me, what happens if you don't feed me? I'll starve. And this is what the ego does. It develops attachment to things, people, places. And the moment that we don't have it, it will induce suffering, and this is how the ego continues to exist. So my advice, feed yourself. That way, if somebody else gives you something to eat, it was extra on your plate. I hope this helps. Great question, by the way. I'm 47 years old, codependent, and alone. How do I start to heal? How do I start to change my mindset? Just by you asking these questions, it tells me that you're actually already on the path. See, by asking the question, now you will assimilate yourself to the frequency of the answer because the answer already exists. You cannot have a question without the answer, but a lot of times we don't ask the question. Maybe a shift in our perspective. Because if we view something as being quote unquote negative, that means the positive has to exist as well. This is the fourth law of this universe, of the law of polarity. In order to see or experience the other end, I have to shift my perspective. Why do I view being alone as something as quote unquote bad? Being codependent, where have I developed this codependency? What's my level of self-worth? How do I view myself? Do I view myself as not capable, or do I view myself as I can do it, I just don't know how? I know for me personally in my life, for the longest, I would sit here and be frustrated with myself. And I would put myself down because there was a part of me that knew, I know I can be so much more, but I don't know how. And that was the frustration. There was a level that I knew I could reach, but I didn't know how to. It sounds like you're experiencing the same thing. So here's what you do. You sit down and you write down all of your fears, all of your deepest insecurities, all the traumas, all the things that have happened in your life that still plague you till this day. You write all of them down. Number one, we're bringing awareness to them. Two, acknowledge these situations as experiences in your life. The ego wanted you to think that you were the experiences. You are not the experience. You are nothing more than the observer of the experience. So now what we've just done is we've zoomed out. Now that we've zoomed out, we can develop a healthier relationship, a more universal perspective. Instead of looking at it from the perspective of a turtle, we can go up to an elevated view and see the whole picture as an eagle. And we can start to see how this situation is helping to bring more awareness to us at this point in our life at 47 years old. How do I need to change the way I view this situation in order for me to experience it differently? So if a situation is negative for me right now, I ask myself constantly, how do I need to change how I look at it so this can be a positive? Oh, wow, yeah. I guess I never thought about it like that. Yeah, I guess now I can see where these parts of me, I still struggle with needing validation. Well, why do I need so much validation? Because I didn't get the validation growing up. Well, why did you need the validation from someone else growing up? Because I never learned how to validate myself. So now this situation actually showed me that I still have more work of validating and caring and loving for myself first before depending on the world to do it. I hope this helps you. Understand that this healing journey is a journey and that there is no destination. If you can figure out just a little bit more about yourself each and every day, you're on the path. Let's see what else we have here. Advice on overcoming a painful breakup. So I'm gonna look at things from a universal perspective to help give you perspective. Painful is relative. While yes, you are experiencing the pain of that breakup, how come I'm not experiencing the pain of this breakup? If I'm not experiencing it, but you are, that means it's based on the subject's perspective. So if it's based on the subject's perspective, that means the subject has control and has power over how they view it. You are the subject. So how can we experience this differently? We need to change the way we view it. Just maybe that soul that you encountered who you were in this relationship with, what if they were the soul who agreed to help you to work through parts of you that you were unaware of? When we start realizing that whoever we date or whoever we marry, we're in a serious relationship with, what they do is they reflect the unhealed parts of our childhood. They reflect the unhealed parts of us that go way, way, way back. So asking yourself how I feel, what's the energy, what's the emotion, but then more importantly, what energy is this tied to from my childhood? And it could be anything. And really sitting with yourself, being quiet, being still. Maybe you can do this in a meditation. You can do this through breathing exercises, calming your nerves, bringing yourself back to a zero state, to the place of presence, and asking yourself all these questions. By you asking the question, now you're putting yourself on the frequency of the answer, because you can't have a question without the answer already existing. I hope this helps. And to give you a little bit of advice, each person who puts you through a painful breakup, you're going to learn just a little bit more about yourself. So when you do find the one, you'll better understand them on a level like you never thought you could. And I'll give you a little tip here. The one that you're looking for isn't as far off as you think. I hope this helps. We're going to continue to answer more questions. I appreciate you guys taking the time to even ask. Drop in the comments below if there's a question that you need to be answered. Well, that's why we're here. And until next time, be good.